Welcome. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Bloomington City Council to order. There we have a single purpose this evening is to poll the council on who they would like to bring forward for interviews for the potential appointment to the city council seat that has been vacated by Councilmember Cynthia Bemis Abrams. We just by way of history, I think people realize that we went through an interview or at least a speed dating process with about 30 different candidates to kind of reflect, and we've had their resumes and their applications before us to take a look at and study too. I think that there was great presentations by all, and we need to now, we'll be polling the council to pare it down for people to coming back for interview. Procedurally, I think that it's been indicated that it's probably for transparency purposes best if we cast oral votes instead of, our the poll that we put out, we put it there. And I'm going to suggest that we start the rounds with putting forth 6 names, since there's 6 of us, and that's just a good enough reason to go for 6 names, on who we'd like to bring forward for interviews. If there is a member or one of the people who comes forward with 4, polled votes on who they'd like to come forward to interview, I think we can set that person aside saying, yes, we'll bring them in for interview. And then if it'd be nice if 3, 4, 5 persons came forward immediately with a majority of our support or the request for the interview, that we could go forward there. But I think that there were so many good presentations that I'm fearful that we'll have a great list of people who come forth with just a couple, and I think we need that majority of viewpoint to have them come forward. So is that any questions or thoughts procedurally how we want to go forward with this?
What number are we aiming for? We're starting with 6 votes. Are we looking for 6 candidates to interview? Are we going to see if there's a natural break at 4 or 5 or 6, or how are we going to play that?
Yeah, I think probably a goal would be in the neighborhood of 4 to 6.
Okay.
And if there's a natural break point that comes forward at 4, I think we can probably go with that number. If there's a lot of close calls, I think, it may end up that, we end up with 6.
Okay.
I would not like to see more than 6. I think that just gets a little bit cumbersome, and it would be that much more difficult to go through them. But
Agreed. Okay.
but there needs to be a natural break point in there, and I don't know when we'll know that.
Yeah.
With
So please, procedurally, this is new to the city. So
yeah, I think that is an equitable approach and transparent to your point of making it known who are each voting for. After this first round, are we going to have an opportunity? Because that'll hopefully limit the pool substantially. Will there be then an opportunity before the casting of ballots for the second round to maybe not speak to individual candidates, but maybe our own philosophy in terms of how we did our decision making that perhaps might bring some influence into swaying people one way or another on certain votes to just further narrow that down to get a sense of what approach we each took to this process? Is that appropriate?
I'm going to suggest, and I thought about this also, is that if we really get locked up, maybe we need to have some conversation. If we can't get to a majority type reference.
Let the numbers go for a while.
Let
and then
the numbers go for a while,
Okay.
and then if we seem to be kind of locked up, we can start to rationalize it, and maybe that will
Sounds good.
help clarify something or not. But because I'm not sure what benefit that would happen from the get-go.
Yeah, and I think to your point, getting down to if we're all in agreement that I'd be more in favor of 4 versus 6 by the end of today's meeting, then obviously having an opportunity to speak with those 4 individuals come Monday, we can then ask those questions then. Okay.
Well, I mean,
all right.
I would like to have the opportunity to enlarge the city council to about 20. Bring on many of the people that
Yeah.
made their presentations to us, because I was overly impressed with the quality of the people that came out of our community
Yeah.
and were requesting to serve, so.
It was a great opportunity to hear from so many people from within Bloomington. It was impressive. Made me proud.
Councilmember Lohman, that's that inquisitive look.
Yeah, so I agree with, I think if we get to 4, it'd be better than 6, but, maybe we may have 6 people, and I'm okay with that too. But I wouldn't want to do more than 6. But in terms of the process, are we thinking of knocking people out in this first round if they're not selected, or how are you thinking about that, in terms of are we trying to get to, if you get 4, that's the majority, then you're in, then we start the next round, and then we,
Maybe that would move another person to 4, maybe 2 people to 4.
Yeah.
You can move them forward.
yeah,
And I think if there are no, and I hate to use the word vote, because that's not
Right.
what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're recommending people to come back for interview. But, if no one has any support from any of the council members, I think they can be taken off the list. Okay, but then,
sure. I might suggest another, just in this opening round, it might make some sense to open that number at 8 as opposed to 6.
No, six of us. I would be more in favor of sticking.
I'm just going to throw it out there. I think it might make it a little faster.
well, I agree. I think the more persons or the names we put forward for interview would probably start to coalesce into someone, but I think we'll get there with a couple of rounds also.
Just might make it easier for us. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't see we have to stick with that. I just think that the first round might be easier to have that number a little bit larger.
And I mean, I would defer to the kind of the look at the council and say, because I just threw 6 out because there's 6 of us, and that's the rationale. And I don't know if that is a rationale.
Well, and I think we've generally all locked into the 6, and some of us.
Well, I even
myself,
suggested 6, so we're earlier.
I picked my top
Argue with
6.
myself.
So
Yes.
That's, and I did too. And in my review, I came up with, what's funny is I have an A team and a B team, so I actually picked 12, but there's an A team of 6 and then
So I need, if we were going to expand the pool, my point is that I need a minute or two to,
Yes.
rethink who 7 and 8 are.
well, I think we're entering into a process that's a little bit unknown and a little bit, but I think if we commit, we can work through it. So with that said, there's, Secretary has provided us with a tally sheet in alphabetical order, and I would ask for tallying's sake if people would put forth in their alphabetical rank those that they've chosen. The question I had, there was Lynn Sorensen, and Lisa Lynn Sorensen, and I'm not sure if she goes by the surname of Lynn Sorensen or Lisa Lynn or Sorensen with, I don't know if it's a name there, so that's one that maybe can or would be out of sequence, but Sorensen is what we will go with. I was just unclear on that. With that said, Councilmember Lohman, are you ready to kick it off with 6?
Well, I don't have mine in alphabetical order here, so let me just
Well-
give me a second here, and I'll be ready to go here. I'll be ready to go.
We can put it in order.
Yeah, no, if you give it out, they're in order, so we can
Just
jog it in.
postally.
Okay. So then I'll start off with Axtell. Let's see here, and then I'll do. Let's see here. Claiborne. Coulter. Let's see here. Sorensen. Wenzel.
That's 5.
I don't. I got one more here. Second here. And then Velasovich? Kim, yeah. Or Ms. V, as she called herself.
Kim V.
Kim B.
That's 6. Councilmember Olson.
Thank you. I assume I'll take a pace that sounds like the right one. Slow me down if you need to. Childress, Coulter, Moravik, Spieth, Stirrett, Velasovich.
Councilmember Carlson, you ready to go?
1 second. Councilmember Olson, can you do those those 6 again real quick?
Childress, Coulter, Moravik, Spieth, Stirrett, and Velasovich.
Who's the last one?
Velasovich.
Kim V.
Stirrett, too.
Stewart. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, Childress, Coulter, Sean Nelson, Kelly Spees, Daniel Sturrett, Daniel Wenzel. Denise, you good?
Yep.
Okay, I'm trying to make eye contact with you to make sure you.
Councilmember Beloga.
Okay, Secretary, ready?
Yes.
Thank you. Coltier, Roman, Sorensen, Spencer, Spies, and Velasovich, if I'm pronouncing it the way we're all going to agree to.
I think you got it. Councilmember Bussey, you ready to go?
Yes, I do. I have Axtell, Claiborne, Roman, Spies, Stirrett, and where do we go? Moravik.
I only got 4 of yours, Tim.
I got 6.
Axtell, Claiborne, Moravik, Roman, Spies, Stirrett.
Thank you. Missed the
Okay,
list.
secretary's ready?
Yes.
Axtell. I had Lynn Sorensen, so Sorensen. Spencer. Spies. Weatherby. Which,
It's out of sequence.
Yeah.
It's
Reed Weatherby.
Reed Weatherby.
Mhm.
And Wenzel. And I'll have the secretary verify this, but I see Coulter with the majority of requests for interview. I see Spies with a majority for requests for interview. Did I got that right?
Yep, that's correct. Those are the only 2 that I have that have 4 or more votes.
So,
So we're saying that those 2 are going to be called in for interview.
I'd say that that would be an appropriate direction to take.
Thank you.
So if we go to our next page, and if you were to cross off the name Coulter, well, let's, those who received none, but I don't think anybody is going to probably rally and bring any of those back. But Coulter and Spies then could be,
Mr. Mayor, sorry for interrupting. If Denise, could you repeat Councilmember Beloga's 6 votes, please?
Yep.
Slowly.
Coulter,
Okay.
Roman, Lisa Lynn Sorensen, Spencer, Spies, and Vlasavovich.
Thank you. So we have 4 in a row there. Yeah. Okay, got it. That's why they all blurred together.
I would like to just take a minute and digest some of this.
Could we just go through the list real quick here? I just want to make sure, because we're gonna eliminate the people who had no votes, right? I mean, could we just go? I mean, it'd be easy to just go through here and just kind of see who we have left on the list.
Well, I don't know that it would be necessary to eliminate these folks. I think, as the mayor said, I think we can assume it's unlikely they're going to rally for 4 additional votes after receiving none through the first time through.
Okay.
So I don't know that we need to eliminate.
Okay.
Yep.
But at the same time, we have the folks who have received votes, and
Yep.
we can look at it.
Okay.
that
So
way.
we can still, if we want to cast for somebody who's on this list that we didn't pick, we still could. But okay.
I think that's exactly right.
Fair enough.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So,
And, yeah, I mean, I'll be very frank, what I'm looking at now is those of you, one of the people that I cast a recommendation to come back for interview for is moving forward. And so now I'm looking to see who I had kind of next on my list that I saw a good number of votes for, in the way that the rest of the council cast things. And so, because it gets to the point of where we're really in some nuance category here. I think I found that person that.
And we're going to vote for 6 again, or what number?
I think 6 is a logical way. I mean, I see that we
either
moved a
5, 4,
couple
3, 2,
here
1.
now, so it's,
So we have 2 already selected.
correct.
I would. I would make a friendly amendment based on this first round of voting that we have this next group that received 3 votes each, and there are 5 of them. Taking those 5 individuals plus the 2 that received more than 4 votes and interview those 7 and call it a night. Because otherwise, we're limiting down to just, we're going to go through more exercises to eliminate 1 more person? 2 more people?
To add, not eliminate.
True?
I mean, I want to stay to the positive on this.
No,
I'd like to add
I thank you.
people versus
I appreciate
eliminate.
that. Yes, absolutely. I mean, it
And-
absolutely.
See, and what it does is, I will probably stick with the majority of the votes that I cast before, but I have one now to move in a direction because one of the people that I recommend to go forward is
Right.
already there.
You'd be adding
So
one more to
now
that list.
I'm going to start to
And to
enter
avoid
into
that.
the mix of
Trying to avoid
some
that.
of the others, and I think everybody's kind of in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
That they're seeing that there's been a person that they supported to come for or recommend to come for an interview now. That person's going forward. There's actually 2 of them going forward. Now they've got 2 votes to move around, and
And I guess that's exactly what I'm trying to avoid the perpetuation of that, adding more names as we have people fill in. Obviously, we all spend a considerable amount of time going through these applications since the first round of interviews. Had a chance to,
I'm going to guess that there's going to be 2 more candidates that pop forward, or 2 more people that will be, with a majority, be recommended to come back for interview.
and fair enough, but I guess my offer still stands. Is there majority support for that?
Well,
I guess I need to know more about what you're thinking.
Well, I can read the names. I mean, if that's for the record.
I
Are
don't-
you
I don't
saying
think
those with 3?
Yes, it would be Axtel.
I don't want to get into that. I mean,
Okay.
I think that as votes are freed up for people
Yep.
they've recommended going forward, they will look and move their votes to maybe those who did get 3, maybe they won't. But I think this will be a way that things start popping forward, as opposed to, I'd like to see
I-
everybody we go for interview end up receiving a majority support of the council.
Yes.
That's, and your
That-
method.
Let's do it.
That's
It's
fair.
probably close, but it's
It's fair. I mean, I just wanted to mention, just based on how these numbers came out, I didn't come here with an agenda, but based on that grouping, it got us close to the number that we were shooting for. I wanted to present that to the council.
Let's
So-
go with 6.
I'd like to, 6 votes, let's go again.
All right.
Before we do that, if I could, I would like to recommend the idea of moving down to 4
I like that.
rather than 6. I think we have rank order our people who we've supported. And by adding others into the list, agreeing that we had a large pool of good and qualified candidates, I think we're just going to I'm not sure of the word that I'm looking to describe it, but I think we're going to broaden rather than narrow the field.
See, and I would disagree. I think you're assuming that more people are going to add on to the list. I think, based on these votes, we're all pretty close. And I wonder if someone who received 3 votes, I mean, we've got a number of votes freed up now, and I wonder if any of those people with 3 votes are next in line for any number of people. And to allow for those extra votes, for that 1 extra vote, the 6 votes per person, I think if we let this play out 1, maybe 2 more rounds, I think we're going to be fine. I'm honestly surprised we've got 2 already, and I think that's a good sign. I think
And-
we're headed in the right direction, and I would say
And
let
I
it play
agree,
out.
Jack, and I did rank my people. I mean, I did rank them. And as I look at it, one of the people that I had on my list is moving forward. And so to tell you the truth, I'm going to come back with 4 votes of the same that didn't make it through last time. But now if we go with 6 again, actually the person that I had ranked 7th, if everybody were to stick with their rankings, that would push it to a majority. And I think probably many of us are in this.
Well, let's give it a try and see what happens.
One
but-
last point, though. To maintain the logic that we've taken here, we chose 6 because of the intended or stated goal of interviewing 6 individuals.
About.
We now have 2 selected. We're looking for 4 more. 4 votes would be the next logical way in which to proceed.
I vote for going for 6 right now.
Procedurally, we
And I
started
think
with
we've got-
6, let's go with 6, and
Yeah.
we'll go another round, and we can continue this discussion if there's no or movement, or if it starts to broaden the field a little bit.
Okay.
Never know when there's a dark horse.
Can we have 2 or 3 minutes just to?
Yeah, I had 2 of my candidates, so I've got.
You got 2 votes freed up.
Yeah.
You can really move the needle here, Beloga.
I'm going to move the needle too. Yeah.
That's good.
I don't know what that means.
Well, if you want to go in reverse order, I can start this if
Well,
people are
seems
comfortable
fair.
with
I'd
that.
be for that. Yes, let's do that.
Yeah,
I
no.
think they're thinking right now. Give them a minute here.
Well, I'm done thinking, so I can.
I'm not.
I'm using the same sheet and going with a different symbol. Like to have it all in front of me.
I can start if you need to reconnoiter. You
You guys good?
Axtell, Lisa Lynn Sorensen, Spencer, Velasevich, Weatherby, and Wenzel.
One more time?
But
Can you just list yours again? I missed some.
Axtell, Lisa Lynn Sorensen. I'm marking mine for the first time. Spencer,
Mm-hmm.
Velasevich, Weatherby, and Wenzel.
Let's go with the order that they're on the page, even though Weatherby is out. I think that would help a little bit.
That's
Yeah.
what always throws me off.
It's, so read Weatherby.
All right,
Tim, are you?
I am ready. Axtell? Moravik? Roman? Spencer? Sterrett? Who did I skip over?
Fine.
Who did I skip over?
Yeah, I've got 5.
Oh, and Claiborne, excuse me, and Claiborne. I missed Dr. Claiborne.
Okay. I am Lisi.
Lacey.
Oh, Jared?
Yes.
Okay.
Jared, okay.
Pier. Roman.
Hold it slower, slower, slower.
Sorensen. Spencer. And Kim V. Try to add a little humor to this.
It worked.
For some reason I only got 4.
It
Yeah,
barely-
I only got 4 years.
You're gonna have to do that again, but even slower.
I'll pass my sheet over to you.
Okay,
here.
that always helps. All right, I need to.
I haven't marked mine on mine.
Yes, and I'm sorry. I'm still reviewing from my past list. I need 2 minutes.
the X's. Oh, Winstead is Weatherby. Sorensen, Spencer.
Oh, Reed. That's what I don't have. Is Reed. I don't have Reed. And then there's the fifth. I'm missing something on Tim here too. So Tim's got two.
Roman. Spencer. Sterrett.
And then Jack.
Down here first.
Whenever you're ready,
You're
Councilmember
ready.
Carlson.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'm one away, and I'm just looking for the name. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay,
I'll get it now.
Denise, you ready?
Yes.
All right. You're really fast at. You must have this like memorized, huh? It's all okay.
It's up there.
Childress, Nelson, Peer,
Wait a minute, a little slower.
Roman, Sturritt, Wenzel.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Childress, Morvik, Roman, Sterrett, Velasevich, Wenzel.
It's Councilmember Lohman.
Okay. So I got my names right here. Let's see here. I'll do Axtell. Childress. Claiborne. Sorensen. Velasevich. And Wenzel.
According to my count, this round brought forth 2 more names.
3.
I have
Excuse me, three. Where was,
The X's now?
I see Velosevich, Roman,
Who's the third?
and Wenzel.
Oh, Wenzel, that's right.
Council, that puts us at 5 who have taken on a majority of a recommendation to bring forward to interview. If the council is comfortable, I would suggest that we request that we recommend that these 5 come back for interviews.
What are the 5 again? We've got Wenzel.
5 would be from, I've got it from the top, it would be Coulter, Roman, Spies, Belasevich, and Wenzel.
I'm
There
okay
seems
with
to
that.
be a logical break there. It seems to be that each of them, within 2 rounds, garnered a majority of this council to request them to come back for an interview. I think we're there.
And I think if we admit this is as much art as science, and there's no definitive way to do this, this is new ground for everybody, I think that a list of 5 makes good sense, and I think we should do this.
Yeah. And I think to our original goal of having each candidate receive a majority of votes is
We've
a good-
accomplished that?
good a rationale.
Okay, so we've accomplished that, and I think we need to state, and I think I would like for the council to comment also, is that there are an incredible amount of honorable mentions here. Many of them received votes in this little poll, and many of them did not. But it was, that round of presentations was very impressive.
Yes.
And I think it starts to also give us a list of people that I hope that we can recommend, recruit to be engaged in our community, whether it be commissions or other task forces, going forward. So I was very impressed with the people of the city of Bloomington who came forth.
That was great. It was a great experience, and you can see the passion and the preparation that was put into a lot of those speeches was great.
Do we need an official motion, or do we just invite these folks back?
Well, why don't we put it in the form of a motion so that it comes with the,
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we invite Nathan Coulter, Paige Roman, Kelly Spees, Kim V., and Daniel Wenzel to interview before the council on Monday evening for the at-large position.
Second?
there's a motion and a second to bring those 5 people forward for interviews. And I don't believe there's any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion does carry unanimously from this council, 6-0.
Do we have a sense that all the people will be available?
I have not heard from anyone that they are not available.
Yeah, I think we put it out there, and there could or would be a problem. And I think that council, I think now we've got to get there, and there may be very direct and pointed questions that this council will be asking of them. And now we're getting into the interview, and we'll be able to dive in a little deeper to their thoughts. So
Now, up to that point, the consistency of each of us asking the same question to each candidate, each one of us come up with one question, like we've done in the past, so that there's a consistency in answers?
I don't necessarily know that. I mean, from my perspective, there would be actually different questions for different candidates that I would like to ask. It's
Maybe that's a question for HR. I mean, if it comes to that, but I think, how do you make comparisons if they're not responding to the same questions? Maybe there's follow-up, but wouldn't we have to at least ask them all the same questions initially?
I don't, I mean, there's a thought process there, but I don't know if that's necessarily necessary. It has helped us in the past, but remember, this will be done in an open meeting.
Yes.
And if we ask the boilerplate question, I mean, if there are questions we would like to ask, let's get them out to all candidates now. But then I think there could be individual and specific questions that would be asked, because, you mentioned, could we talk about criteria or why we have kind of wanted to see these people come forward for interview? I looked at many of them in history. I looked at them for, you know, what they've done in the community, and, you know, and I put some credence into that. I put some, you know, some weight into that in wanting to see them move forward. And with that said, there's a couple of them I would like to ask questions about that portion of their involvement with the community. A little bit of rationale, which others wouldn't be, I wouldn't be asking them that. You know, maybe you could paint a hypothetical or something, but,
No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, if you want to dig a little bit deeper based on the comments they made during their presentation, but I think we can achieve both. If we have, I would call it a baseline set of questions to provide for a level playing field, but I think there's nothing wrong then with asking those follow-up questions or digging a little bit deeper into some of those responses. That I don't think that would be. I mean, you know, we want to make sure we have good information in making a decision, but to not have some formality. I mean, I don't know. Coming from the public sector, it's just a. I think there's some kind of rules around this that we need to be aware of, and we want to be mindful of the things. You know, interview processes can be a structured affair, and we want to be aware.
you know,
of
this
where
is,
that.
this is fairly unique, and it's, candidly, it is not a job interview.
Well,
It is, you know, we've got the ability to make an appointment to a position. It is, to a great degree, it can and will be politically charged. You know, I think that's just part of it. There's no doubt about it.
but doesn't that then offset some of that by having the same approach for everybody?
If I may add, I started out being very sympathetic to your position, but having gone through the process myself, having, you know, the same question answers, I think it puts, you know, the first candidates at a disadvantage because all the rest of those candidates will be in the room, able to hear and alter what their position on something may be. And as far as the political charging of it goes, I think everybody filters things through their own experiences, knowledges,
Of course.
and, you know, history and background. So what you take as favorable or unfavorable in a response, someone who thinks differently is going to take the polar position.
Well,
So
here's my
I don't think you eliminate that.
here's my point, is I think we've done an exceptional job with presenting a fair and transparent process. I would hate to have us run afoul with our line of questioning in this very important final stage. So I guess if we could seek some advice from our city attorney and our HR director in terms of what we need to be aware of, and have that shared with the council before Monday in a memo, I think that would be much appreciated. So I just want to know what the rules of the game are going into this.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I'm going to fall back and just go back to this. This really is not an HR issue, other than seeing to it that they're qualified and they've all signed affidavits that they are, you know, those who have come this far. Now it's, I think the questions will be there to try and get a little closer to the way they think and the way they would theoretically govern.
Fair enough. But if there's something we need to be aware of, I think we should know that in advance.
If it's, from that standpoint, totally, if there's any things that just are totally off base, but I don't know what that could be.
Right, neither do I.
Councilmember Olson?
Thank you. I was, I guess, assuming that we were going to have them come in separately. I really think that the luck of the draw on the order, to have the opportunity to hear what others have to say, I think we should do it like we've done with Planning Commission and Human Rights Commission, that they come in separately. I feel pretty strongly about that.
And the only nuance to that is that those particular city council meetings were also open city council meetings, that there was not an interest from the public or other people who wanted to sit in on the interview process or on that questioning process. Whereas I think this will garner both the public and the other candidates to sit in on it. Whereas they had the opportunity at the other interviews for human rights and planning, but no one from the community availed themselves to sitting in.
Right, but the community is going to hear each candidate, each of the five, the whole community on TV or in the room are going to hear that. I'm just thinking that some people are pretty sharp in picking out a weakness in somebody else or a strength that nobody else is adding, and so as the line goes down, they have a chance, as Councilmember Beloga said, to respond to that.
I think it's not too much to ask for candidates to wait outside council chambers until it's their turn. We could do that.
Well, but they can
I
still
don't think
hear.
we have the right to do that.
They still
Here
can
again,
hear.
that
No,
is
no,
my
no,
point.
I'm not saying it, I'm saying it's an ask. It's not a tell. It would be an ask.
TV's still on out there.
Turn them off.
No, and I understand what you're saying, and I'm sympathetic to it, but I think either between the TVs out there or someone, a plant sitting in here texting them the questions, I mean, there's no way we can assure that this is going to be a completely pure process. So, I also understand what you're saying. I'm being in the public sector myself. I know full well about public sector interview processes and how you can run afoul if you don't do it correctly.
We
But I
are,
would
we
agree-
are the public sector.
We are the public sector, but I would agree with the mayor that this is not a job interview. I'm looking at it more, now, I think Monday night is more along the lines of a candidate forum. They're a candidate for a position, for an office, and I think we have the opportunity to ask them questions. Now, we might double up on some of the questions. I think it's incumbent on us then, as council members, if you just have your rote question, maybe you don't do that. I mean, you can tailor it to this person's background. We've got their resumes, we've got their background, we've heard them talk before. So to tailor our questions, or to ask them a different question, or to follow up in a different way, I think it's the rote, everybody gets the same 4 questions, is not the way to do it here for a variety of reasons. And I think we have that ability, and I think it's on us, I think, to challenge them a little bit more to answer some questions.
So to that point, again, using the forum as an example, in a forum, maybe we have the candidates sit back here and they go down the line and answer that question, as opposed to answering all the questions and then having the next candidate come up.
Well, that I kind of sort of like that. I mean, it's similar to a process that we've all kind of gone through. I don't know if it's the same process that, and I've never been appointed before. I mean, so I would look to those who have been appointed before to, talk about that process, to see how it was handled. But I do like that forum idea, though. That is an interesting way of doing it. That does eliminate the problem.
Well, for my part, I want the opportunity to have a list of questions, and hopefully that we're going to have some standard questions that will go to all of them. But I also want the opportunity to be able to ask candidate A a specific question that maybe I only ask of that person.
Agreed.
So I hear, but I want the flexibility and opportunity to be able to have what I think is a blend or the best of both worlds, so that we're asking some common questions, but we also have a variety of questions that we can ask and direct to specific candidates.
And I mean, I mentioned that, and I do agree with you on that one, that it's there, and it's going to be different for each of the candidates for me, but I think that in notification of the 5 who are coming back, I think we need to have them give their abridged version of their presentation. I mean, take about a minute of it, summarize their presentation that they made before, and then hit on it, and then I think we're probably gonna have about 10 minutes of where we can interact with them and ask questions. If we wanna ask a standard question of each and every one of them, if one of the council members elects to do that, that's fine. If they have customized questions and ask a different question, that's fine. But I think what we need to do is probably just kind of be ready for one round. Well, let's try and prepare and have 2 rounds of questions from each one of the members of the council. And so think about that in advance. And if one's a standard question you'd like to bring up for every one of the candidates, great. But if there's something else you want to dig into, whether it comes up on the run, on the fly, or if it's something that through their presentation and their submitted materials you want to drill into a little deeper, be prepared.
Well, a thought strikes me that, how long are we going to give each person in the interview process?
Well, I think we need to be clear on that. I think we need to hold each person's interaction to about 10 minutes. And that's why I'm saying I think they need to give a 1-minute abridged version of their presentation that they gave to us to bring it back up, and they'll put forth many of their key ideas at that point in time. And then I think we'll turn it over to us, and that would give each one of us about 45 seconds for each question to ask and have answered.
And I think we need to time both our questions and their answers to, we can't have somebody,
I think we need to hold it to a nice round minute then.
yes, we can't have somebody ask a 3-minute question.
I think that's a key
You know,
thing to remember. We're here to listen as opposed to talk. Just put the
Precisely.
question out there and let them.
And so if we each put forth our question and allow for the response to about a minute,
Yeah.
and then that'll afford us 2 rounds, which is 12 minutes, and if they put forth a 1-minute
Opening and
pre-presentation,
closing.
opening, yeah,
Would it be
15
possible?
minutes is what we're looking at per candidate, it sounds like?
that's an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
Would it be possible to send a question ahead of time to them? Is that something we could do?
Well, put it this way, I mean, the way I'm going to read that right now, if you elect to send your question to each of them now, I don't see it, it's.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if I,
but,
if
mean,
I could send a,
If you're going to have a question,
yeah.
I think it needs to be a standard question that goes out now, and to tell you the truth, that would, we've got to figure out a timing sequence here.
Yeah, that's why I was
That
wondering.
would be.
Yeah,
that
so I was
would-
just thinking, there's a question that'd be interesting where you'd have to do some research. I could get it out yet tonight, and then you'd present what it is in 1 minute when you get it right there. And in the
So how does
session on Monday.
that end up, that's like an open book test, so how does that help you qualify the candidate?
Well, it's similar to how we deal with issues on council. We have the information on Friday, and then you have to make a decision, on it and have a presentation on Monday, Monday night. Your decision making. So I'm just, in my head, just trying to think of, is there a question that I could come up with tonight where the information is readily available to everybody, and then they would be able to have that presentation ready to go by Monday.
I think you'd have to ensure that it's 5, right? All 5 candidates received your question, if that's the one you intend to ask all of them, as part of the same email. So they all have the exact same amount of time in which to respond. I mean, my sensitivity is towards the process and the transparency here. And while I think your logic is sound in terms of having a bit of a research project going into this, however, that would entail probably more than a 1-minute response to answer it comprehensively. You might want to consider increasing the amount of time we allow people to speak.
And I'm
Not
not,
giving up.
just to that point, to the amount of time, I think it could only be helpful to allow more time for each candidate if we, as a body, are willing to commit that amount of time to it.
Right.
And we've got a relatively light agenda on Monday evening. This will be at the end of the agenda, if I'm not mistaken. And so if you want to allow more time, the agenda is an hour meeting?
Yeah, I'd say an hour.
I think this is an important enough issue that we should devote as much time as we universally think and agree that
Yeah.
it's going to take.
Appropriate. And we've gone from 10, and we've just talked 15, and, 20 is not a magic number, but it's something to be considered.
Yeah.
I think we need to reconsider doing 2 questions each, unless we end up giving more time, because a 1-minute answer, depending on the questions, of course, but they're not going to be yes or no questions. And to give them an opportunity to give an answer that is oversimplified, I think is problematic.
It's,
I know.
Councilmember Olson, I have
Yep.
to, the one who asked the 20-minute questions, at our council meetings, it's,
Just so that the public knows, that is a definite excessive comment there. 'Cause I've actually done some
but
checking,
it's-
and others talk more than I do on that
I'm
tonight.
really open to the process, and I agree that I think I'm willing to commit the appropriate amount of time. And if it's a half hour a candidate, I'm willing to,
Yeah, I am too, yeah, I mean, we get the right person.
Well, I
I'm
think,
going to suggest that we just kind of block 20 minutes, but if we find that we're going to get in a little bit longer with a candidate, I think we should be able to get a couple of rounds of questions each, allow them to open and close, and do that within a 20-minute period.
yes.
Because, unless we're looking to appoint an orator to the city council, it's, they should be able to respond to our questions. And to tell you the truth, I really like to put questions forth where they do have to think on their feet, because I think you really get a true viewpoint when they have to present it with no notice, with no without getting the question on the test first, so.
I think that's valuable too. I think, I want to see both things, because it tells me something if I give you something ahead of time, and, you fail that.
I always did well on open book tests.
Well, I bet you did. I bet you did.
So, it's just to try and bring this home, 20 minutes
20 minutes.
per candidate. We, opening and a closing period of about a minute each. And then that should afford us 2 rounds of questions that would put us at, 2 rounds is about a minute and a half apiece. And that puts you at exactly a minute and a half per question and answer. And that puts us at the 20-minute mark, which is a goal, not
Yeah.
necessarily a hard, fast Denise with her green and yellow sign thing.
Right. And I think if we acknowledge that with the first candidate, that was a reasonable exchange and that took 25 or 30 minutes, we afford that to the other candidates.
Yeah, we may want to engage down a road that we're willing or wanting to extend the time.
Okay.
I'm a little uncomfortable with the flexibility on the time, in that candidate, we don't know who's going to be in what order, but the third candidate, so we're halfway through, takes an excessive amount of time. Gives very long, drawn-out answers. That really then does 2 things. It opens the door for the next 2 candidates to also give more detail and flesh out more their comments to questions. And as a result, slights the first 2 candidates who, understanding what the process was, said, we'll be good soldiers, we understand what the rules are, and will abide by those.
I would offer that it brings up a third option also, that somebody who does that, I put my pen down and they just talk their way out of a job, basically. And I've done that in many interviews before. And, I mean, they run that risk, and if they don't have that self-awareness, it's on them, not necessarily on us. And then the preceding two candidates, again, if they think, well, they took 45 minutes, I can take 45 minutes too. That tells me enough about those two candidates to eliminate them as well. So I think, I'm afraid we're overthinking this a little bit here. This is not as hard as we're making it.
Yeah.
This is,
And like I
this is a
said, I
discussion.
put it forth as a goal,
Yeah.
to.
And I'm not
You know,
concerned about
Our
a
goal would
couple
be to be
minutes either
close
way.
to a
No,
minute
no.
opening, close to a minute closing, and that will afford us time for about a minute and a half, question and answer from each one of the council members twice, And if we put those kind of ground rules out to them and state it, that it's a goal to have the questions and answers done in that minute and a half. And if we see someone running it,
Yeah, I mean,
it's,
you can cut 'em off.
to your point, I mean, I would look to, sure, I'm supposed to be the one chairing the meeting, but if any one of the council senses it, please, Mr. Candidate, if you would kind of summarize your response, that would, I think, and I would like to afford that to each and every one of us, to say that, hey, let's bring it on home.
We've done this quite a bit with Planning Commission and Human Rights Commission, and we've always done it. I mean, you've been chairing and taking the lead on that. Some people will have short answers for some questions, and they could take a little longer than another one. But if we tell them ahead of time that we are giving each candidate, out of fairness, 20 minutes, give or take, and so please be thoughtful about how you give your answers.
Yeah.
So,
I think we're set.
and if you can, are you clear on kind of the ground rules that we're attempting to set? And are you going to be notifying these people this evening?
Yep, I'll be calling them tonight. One question that I have is, how do we want, in what order do we want them to interview? Do we want to select them randomly like we did for these interviews?
I would say if you want to go through a random selection, Denise, you may do that.
Okay.
And why don't you do that as a random selection, and then, so you can pencil them in and let them know that this will be at the tail end of the council meeting. And we don't know exactly how long that's going to run, but it will be no sooner than, but approximately 8 o'clock or whatever the time that you look at that agenda, whatever you think it could be.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, are you going to be penning a letter or whatever to send to those who have, because we can be very complimentary, as we've all said, about the quality of candidates, but to let other people know that they haven't been selected for the interview?
I totally, we should, and put it this way, and we'll put a letter together and we can have it for Monday night, and I'd like to see it signed off on by not only myself, but the entire council.
Yep.
Yeah,
Good
that's a
idea.
Because, I think we're all in the exact same position. It was just kind of a wow.
Yep.
One last thought. I know we have the 14th as a placeholder on our calendars if we need to meet. Are we voting? Are we making a selection on Monday?
We had kind of discussed that.
I know.
We thought we would probably be able to do it.
Okay, that's what I recall.
One of the things that I'd like to put forward is, now there's going to be 5 candidates, and if we all, 5 candidates, and it boils down that we're not in consensus on a person leading the pack,
Yes.
we could go 1 vote, 1 vote, 1 vote, 1 vote, 2 votes. I mean,
And we can only vote 3 times.
we can only do it 3 times. So the point is, I think we could take, I think we need to probably be ready to come to conclusion on that after our interview process, and maybe be willing to take a vote and see how it goes, and there might be a clear-cut leader.
Okay.
But if there isn't, I'm gonna suggest that then we do adjourn and then come back on the 14th to do it, because if we, like tonight, if we take a vote and take a vote, and it's down to the last vote, and we can't come to a consensus leader,
We,
we then.
We've exhausted
you-
those.
You've exhausted it, and then it defers
to the
me.
mayor, yes, yes.
And I would not like to see that happen. I mean, I'm willing to take it on, I'm not afraid of that, because I've got a list, I
Yeah.
put forth some
Yeah,
people.
and so, and it's good, because the rules are very clear in terms of you get
Yeah.
3 strikes, or three attempts.
We get 3 rolls at it,
Mhm.
and so I think that, I think that's something after the interviews we can discuss. Are we, dear council, are you ready to put forth your thoughts and take a vote on this? And everybody might go, no.
So are,
Or everybody might go, yes, and we could take a vote. And
It would be one
if it
vote,
came, yeah, it would be, yeah, obviously you're voting for one person.
one person.
And if it came out 1-1-1-1-2, I think then we should probably recess and then have some,
Time to think about it.
some more thought on it.
Okay.
so we can have some discussion right after that, or are we just going to kind of just go straight into a vote?
I think we need to discuss procedure.
Okay.
Not
You know,
candidate.
I don't, I think that you,
Well, I'm just trying to get clear on kind of what the process is going to be. Not so much, am I recommending it? I just want to know, because I've not been a part of this appointing process before. So, is there discussion that typically happens, after the interviews have gone through, or is it just kind of straight to a vote, or talk about the process? How does this kind of?
at the times of the other appointment process, we had presentations and interviews, kind of all in one. And that goes back to 1995 when I was appointed to the city council.
Yeah.
There was 9 of us that got about 10 minutes each, and so it was about an hour and a half
Wow.
of where the council sat there. They took in the information and came back at a subsequent meeting.
Okay.
And Councilmember Bussey, you were appointed also, and I think we took in the information and came back at a subsequent meeting.
That's correct.
So,
And how did those votes? I mean, was it pretty unanimous at that point, or in terms of, because you've given some time to think about it, and
no, it went,
a couple votes?
I was fortunate, I did get a majority the first run, the first go-through.
Okay.
I don't think you did, Tim.
I think I did.
Did you?
Okay, so we haven't seen
It
multiple.
wasn't unanimous.
No,
I
it
think
wasn't.
supported.
Oh.
Well, it was, here again, you vote and then move and then
Then
unanimously
then
supported.
unanimous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
But-
correct.
But,
So if we meet on the 14th, that would be, did we calendar that at 5:30? Is that correct?
A time has not been selected for that.
It's typically when we get together.
5:30.
5:30 get together time.
You have a conflict?
No, I'm just verifying my calendar.
Oh, okay.
But, and one of the things too, I think we need to do is think about process. The process of a vote. If we were to set it up, we ran into a circumstance at one of the HR, or at the Human Rights Commission votes that we decided to drop off the lowest vote getters from the get-go. And that by default, it was one of those 1-1-1-1-2 things. I think maybe I have too many things in there. But, and then there was a whole bunch of people that got 1, so they all fell off. And so that only left the person who didn't get 1 kind of de facto around, to be the one who didn't fall off.
Right.
So, like I say, while it's a vote now in the city council, it's,
Or does it make sense to use a different number? I mean, I don't know what that number is, but
One person needs 4.
Yeah, I need the majority.
no, we need a majority. One person doesn't need a majority to be appointed, and that is 4 votes. But I don't
And
want
we
to get
can't
into
and we can't
I don't
screen the
want to
list
get into
down,
the
right?
procedure of dropping off the lowest vote getter.
Okay.
Because theoretically, you could have 4 lowest vote getters, and the person then, on the first vote, did not receive a majority,
Right.
but by de facto being dropped off.
So, but the rules though, we can only cast one vote. I mean, because like in this process, we picked 6 people.
This was a process that's undefined and not in the charter.
Right, whereas with that
we
is
just did it
defined.
To work
Yeah.
on, to get candidates.
I think when we vote the first time, the process will either become clear or we can discuss and decide at that point. Because your illustration of dropping everybody off could happen, but it's not likely to happen.
Yeah, the lowest vote getters, if you drop off the lowest vote getters, you could drop out the whole
Right.
deal.
But what I'm
Except for
saying,
one.
what I'm saying is if we end up getting a 3 and, well, there's only 6 of us here, so I'm not sure how the math goes, but a 3-2-1 or something like that, then we could decide to go with a 3-2, couldn't we? At the time?
And what I like what you're saying is, I mean, is there anything preventing us from further setting another finalist? You know,
Yeah.
limiting that pool.
There is we get 3 votes as a council.
Well, when we finally make the decision to vote for a person to do it, we've set that procedure, that clock in motion.
Because I mean, we set this process here already to limit the pool down. We decided 5, but I mean, is there a way that we could narrow that pool some more?
If you want to take another poll.
That's what I'm wondering.
and
I'm just
not a
throwing
vote
that out there.
for candidates.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out
Flip
there.
it
I
down.
mean, what would prevent us
I
from
don't
doing
know
that?
what, I think that after the interview process, I think a vote and a poll are about the same thing.
Because I mean, technically, we've already, in a sense, we've limited from the 30 some odd folks down to this next process down to 5. There was nothing that's to prevent us to get down to 5. I don't know what from a procedural process, since we are setting the process up, that would, we say we're going to get ourselves down to 2 now, and these are going to be the 2 that we're going to now then vote on. I mean, isn't it just what we're deciding we're going to do, or is there some, we have to have, these 2 steps here that get us there?
I think we need to, I think with 5, I would hope that this council could come within 3 ballots to give someone a majority.
Well, I would think so, but
But it may.
I don't want to throw it out there.
Everybody locks in on an individual and.
Well, there you go,
They want to keep it that way and,
I mean, does it make some sense to, because we talked at some point at maybe 3 or 4, having another cutoff, so that it's a smaller number of
I
people.
would hope we could do that in 3 rounds of official vote as opposed to keep culling the herd.
Do I understand correctly that if no one gets at least 4 votes, that your choice would end up being from the final 5? Is that correct?
That's not, no.
No?
Charter does not
No.
say
You
that.
can pick anybody he wants.
Okay.
So I'll put my dog on notice. No, he's not a registered voter. No, it's,
Which dog?
yeah, good point.
It's a whole nother balloting process.
I would just look to council, please, let's not even consider going there. Let's, within 3
Let's get to the
votes,
process.
be willing to come together in consensus and a majority on a candidate.
Okay.
And I'm hoping we can do that. That doesn't mean that we might stubbornly lock
Mm-hmm.
in on an individual, and it'd be a different individual for each one of us.
But I
Would it be possible to have a little table talk at that point? What I'm thinking is that if we decide that we want to do it in three ballots,
we have to.
that somebody may switch in a different direction, and then it's not.
At that point in time, if there's discussion on that, I think it's appropriate. And, you could,
Right.
people could share their views on why they supported someone and maybe try and get some consideration from others, but
And there's always the option of adjourning the meeting and coming back on the 14th
Coming
to,
back on the 14th, knowing that
third
we're
vote,
working under a deadline and a
Yes.
timeline that, and a procedure that needs to be accomplished.
Right.
Or,
okay.
Maybe I misunderstood, but I was hearing that the 14th was the day when we would do the selection.
my recollection is that we talked about it after the interview process Monday night. If we felt we were in a comfortable position, that we were able to digest everything from the interview, from the 5, the number was 5 now, that if we so were inclined, we could then go for a vote, if we were inclined. But I would, here again, that's going to take some conversation at the end of the interview process. Someone may say, no, I'm uncomfortable. The others might say, no, I'm very comfortable. But, you know, I mean, I'd like to have a consensus from the council that, yes, we can vote tonight, and we can at least do a round of voting. And it might be very clear. It might be very unclear.
Having the option of voting that night and then as we get into it, an option of waiting for the 14th, I think gives us all the leeway we need. And I agree, we're talking this to death.
We need to. This is something we need
Oh,
to be
I-
clear on,
I-
at least procedure up front, so that it is a very transparent.
Right. But we've discussed what the options are in terms of procedure. We're not locking ourselves in, which I think is wise.
I think, you know, the first vote can be indicative of something that will go smoothly or something that may be problematic, and we may determine that it might be time to adjourn, set the meeting for the 14th, and come back knowing we've got 2 more shots at it.
Yep.
And
And
additional consideration given for a
And-
multitude of reasons.
playing that out just one step further, as assuming that there was still a split, there wasn't a majority, you would need to be prepared to appoint somebody at that time, because the clock is essentially run out.
Yes, I believe that while there'd be a meeting there, I would assume I've got, I don't know what the charter, I'm assuming I've got time after that meeting up until the end of the day. I
Right, but I mean-
honestly don't know. I mean, a great declarative coming from the mayor saying that.
I mean, but it might be
Because-
worth looking into, because I mean, do you
Well,
postpone the
put it
meeting
this
again,
way.
or adjourn the meeting again and adjourn again to appoint somebody? How does that piece?
And
that
and
has
I
to
don't
be
know if
figured
that has
out.
to be done at a meeting, but it's,
No, that's a good point.
put it this way, if we go to the 14th and we have failed to come to majority on a candidate, I will be prepared at that point in time to make an appointment at that moment.
Sounds good. I think we've got a plan.
There's something that bothers me about doing a split on the 11th and the 14th. And because then people have declared sort of a position relative to a candidate. And it can get, for people who have some distrust in government, to say that here council went off into the smoke-filled room, made a deal and selected the candidate. So what I'm saying is I really feel we should do it all in one session, either the 11th or the 14th.
I think even if we, you know, just thinking about that, I think even if we leave here and it goes to the 14th, that still might be, you know, they decided, you know, in between, you know, this is.
Well, on Monday night, if we do a preliminary vote, there will be a candidate that gets more votes than the others. They may not reach a majority, but then we would know that. And then if we were to adjourn, we would have the opportunity then to very much share individually with each other our reasons
Yes.
for supporting or wanting to support a candidate
The reason,
that
for adjournment is to, in my mind, trying to eliminate the possibility of having the mayor make the decision. I mean, this should be a decision, I mean, if we go down that path and go through those 3 ballots, I can see without that break, that being where we end up.
I would suggest that if we have somebody that
That's
has,
worse than,
Three.
than the alternative.
if we have somebody that has 3, I mean, if it's 4, it's 4. And in either case, I would suggest that we be given the opportunity to decide if there's somebody that gets more votes than anyone else. If the council feels comfortable doing a consensus vote.
Well, that would be you take a snack up. that all it takes
If
is
somebody
one.
gets at least 3, if it's 4, then I think the same thing, is that we end up indicating that we
If it
feel
were be to 4, then
decided.
it's concluded.
done, yeah.
it's concluded, but
If it's to 3, though, here again, the charter is very specific
all
on
right.
saying that they need a majority. And with that said, I would like, let's say Loman, Olson, and Carlson all had candidate A. He had B, he had C, and I had D, okay? I would like to see us adjourn, and then I would like to have conversation with many of you individually saying, why are you supporting this person? Convince me
Why you
to
should
come
join.
to your camp.
Yeah.
Because there is going to be somebody with more votes, maybe with a majority, maybe not. If the majority is there, it becomes then this job has become very easy. But
With respect to the open meeting laws, my understanding is that we're limited to only talking to 2 other
That's
Correct.
right.
city council members.
no, I mean,
So
I couldn't
Absolutely.
sit down,
the
under my
discussion-
scenario, I couldn't sit down and have a discussion with the 3 of them.
That's correct.
But something tells me Councilmember Carlson would have me on the phone saying, I think that you should consider this and that, and maybe
but-
he'd make good points.
Another part of the open meeting law is you can't make a decision based on serial conversations.
Right.
So you can't skip all of that by simply talking your way down the line. So when we first discussed this after our interviews for the planning commission,
Right.
I was on board with what Jack is proposing, that either an all or a nothing. It's been done in the past where the council hears the interviews, adjourns, and in subsequent nights then makes the decision. I'd be most comfortable with that. I'll work with whatever. I'd be most comfortable with hearing the interviews, saying goodnight, coming back on the 14th, making our decision.
I would concur.
And I do like that also, because that's historically the way it's been done. But the only caution I would have is that really puts us under a procedural and a procedural timeline to work it out on that 14th. I mean, it has to be done. It doesn't allow us any missteps. It doesn't allow us any,
And to the mayor's point, casting that first ballot is a reasonable approach as well.
it could, yeah,
You want-
it's,
yep.
I'm,
We can work with either.
I see the logic in that. And, I think I've all been versed and trained in the rules around open meeting laws, and again, staying with our approach in terms of having an open and transparent process. But at the end of the day, we need to ensure that we're true to that, but we got to reach a conclusion. I think it would be a disservice to the community to have this default. I wouldn't feel I was doing my duty in representing Bloomington residents and having this default to the mayor.
I agree. Well,
it's,
Up.
just to paint scenarios, the very worst scenario that could come out of Monday night if we, or any vote, would be a 3-3 vote. If there was one candidate got 3 votes and another candidate got 3 votes. That means that 3 of us probably felt very strongly about one candidate, and that would be the harder one to maybe move from. And so, a 3-2-1, obviously the person who cast the 1, would think, well, what did I miss? My colleagues moved in
Yes.
another direction, and so I can understand where they're at, and I can,
Move
that
on.
person seemed qualified, and you're right, I can go with that. But it's that 3-3 that I'm fearful of. Just speaking out loud, that,
Well, we've had it. We've had a 3-3.
yeah.
But
Okay.
did we decide that there would be an opportunity to have some discussion about process or the rationale for voting the way that we have in terms of the criteria that we've been talking about? I thought that you said that we could do that. After a first vote, we would have an option of making comment about what we think is the type of person that we should have without talking about individual candidates. Did I misunderstand that?
If it's in an open forum, I think we can do that, and that might be something that could be very useful
Yep.
after a preliminary vote.
Yes. Yes.
And so, I mean, the value of the preliminary vote is, the first vote is what? I mean, I just want to make sure that,
We're putting
Jack,
our-
I mean, I totally get the point of
Yes.
recessing and coming back later, but I'm just really concerned that it puts us on that procedural timeline that's,
Well,
we could get
And-
locked up.
and again, just to restate, I'm good with either doing it on the 11th or the 14th, but my strong preference is that we do the appointment on one date.
I agree.
Not do a first round ballot on one day and then the next two the following day if needed.
And I think the process that we've talked about, we dip our toes in the water in the first one, and that gives us a sense of where it's going to go. And if we have the opportunity to talk in general terms without obviously lobbying for a particular person or something like that, but if we talk about the rationale for how we've been voting all along, it could help clear the air and move us in a direction.
Well, I think I want to support the admirable qualities of the person who I support. So I don't want
No,
to make it
and I
in
don't,
generalized terms.
I don't think you could speak in, criteria. I think you could speak about the individual.
Well,
Yeah.
but that.
I voted for
think
and
it's really
supported this person because this is what I saw, this is what I
Really the same thing.
thought was important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
Well, yeah. I'd rather not do an example now, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Jack. I mean, we have some historical precedents though for adjourning and then coming back. So, but if we can do it the same night, I'd prefer that. I just think that'd be better.
Well, the question is, one night for 3 votes, or up to 3 votes, or not? I mean, I think that's the question that I want to see this council be very comfortable with.
Well, the real difference between the 11th and the 14th is do we have the dialogue offline or in an open meeting?
I guess I'd rather have that dialogue in open meeting.
And
'Cause
that's my point.
Yeah, I don't want, I mean, I know we can, but I just think that, I think we should have it in an open forum.
And I don't think what we're proposing is prevents that from taking place.
It's, I'm very comfortable with doing it all in a single meeting, the vote, et cetera, et cetera. And the only thing I would say is there a value, I mean, does everyone think they'd be ready at the Monday night meeting or not? We really, that's a question that I'm,
I'll
are
come
you
back-
ready to swing at it 3 times come Monday night after these interviews?
Well, and that's it for me, is that if we are locked up and heading in a direction of 3 votes with someone not receiving the majority, I think it is prudent to which, adjourn after the first vote, because you still have 2 left, to which we are, again, it's not to determine who the appointed person is, it's to avoid getting in a situation where the mayor has to make that decision. I'm trying to preserve my vote and my influence in this decision-making process so that I have a say in who gets this appointment. And to go through 3 rapid-fire rounds where nothing changes and everything's locked up, I don't think we've done our duty as elected representatives.
Well, the opposing view could be is that we have somebody who gets 3 and then 1-1-1, for instance.
Right. All the scenarios are possible, and I think until we get to that point, we can we'll have more data in which to make a decision. I think we know what the options are, but I mean, my point in stating this is that it's not a way in which to, I want the transparency to be there, but I also want to ensure that we all have a say in this decision, that we don't forfeit that.
Yeah, no, I'm good with either option.
Okay.
I gave my strong preference, but
Yep, and I hear
I'm
you.
flexible.
Yep.
One of the realities is that on our first ballot tonight, one person got 5 votes. And so the interviews could drastically change that direction, but the fact that we had 5 out of 6 votes tonight for one person on the first ballot, I think is instructive.
That may carry forward, that momentum may just carry forward.
Well, I mean, if
That's
we
good.
were impressed with
Well,
that candidate.
And the reason for maybe wanting to do something on Monday night is at least take a vote. Now, I understand that
One vote.
breaking it is there would probably send us off in that direction, that saying it looks like there's someone who's a very strong consensus leader here, and the vote might come forward, and good point, when you say that one of these people will be, receive 5 on the first go-round, maybe that's what's going to happen after the interviews.
Right.
Um,
That person could say something that all of a sudden our opinions tank.
That's true, too.
But that's very unlikely in the first place. And that's why I was saying that if we have somebody with at least 3 votes out of the 6, and we don't have a tie of 3, that if there appears to be a consensus, are you saying that the charter does not permit us to have a vote that basically is saying, I move that we cast unanimous ballot?
Well, it would count as another vote. That'd be your second
Well,
vote.
that would be the second vote.
And then if
And
one
that-
person says no,
And, well, I understand that, but if that's a judgment call on your part,
Well, here again, I think if the scenario is 3 votes for one person and 1-1-1 for the others, I think that those who were casting the single vote or cast a single vote for there has got to do some thinking and say that, there's got to be something on the second vote. There's obviously got to be some rationalization of why 3 people supported this person and why I was a loner, on my support, and say that I understand what the process is, and while it's not my first choice, I can, that would be a thought process for each individual council member. And so, but
And-
that's,
Another key point, too, is if we drive this path and then it gets to the default where the mayor has to make a decision, the mayor has said that he'd be ready to make an appointment at the 14th. I don't think it's fair to him to say he'd have to make a decision at the end of this process on the 11th.
why not?
Well, because the intent was that we would reach a consensus, and now he's put in a position with no time to reflect, to make a decision. That's not fair.
He's been reflecting along with us.
to John's point, I think you would probably see a mayor make an appointment from those who have gone through the interview process because they have come forth and
Sure.
been vetted. And if it was 3-1-1-1, you're just putting me on the spot of saying I probably would stick with my 1. But I would rather see someone come through the collective judgment. This is a team sport, and
Yeah.
I would like to see the team all be pulling in the same direction instead of, me being the outlier. it would be so much easier if it was the three of us that had somebody on the line and you were one.
Yeah.
And, now it's very easy, but if it's not that direction,
Then you could reach a conclusion at the end of the meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. All right, I'm good.
I guess the last thing I'll say is that I would prefer, either way I'll go with, but I'd prefer if we get to our end of our vote, that some of that dialogue about our decision-making process, the transparency, some of that at least happens, in a public forum.
the dialogue regarding the decision-making
Right.
process, I would very much like to see in the public forum also.
Guaranteed, yeah.
That lets us share our thoughts,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that.
governance ideas,
Yeah, we think, yeah. I just think that having some of that, then I feel much more confident coming back on the 14th if the last two votes are at that point, so.
I think we all plan to be very vocal in terms of supporting our candidate of choice. There's not going to be any shortage of that.
Well, the fact of the matter is, we started out by saying that there's a lot of good candidates. And I think we need to honor the fact that the process will either come out, but bottom line is, we're not going to end up hurting Bloomington by whoever we take from these five. I firmly believe that, and I sense it from others.
and it's,
That's a good sage cap to it all, John. I think it's perfect.
well, I'd like to just summarize this, and I'd like to really get consensus from the council. Do we want to be prepared on Monday night to at least cast an initial vote and get our
Yes.
toe in the water and see where this leads us?
I think so.
Or do we want to adjourn and come back and schedule the Thursday and then let the chips fall where they may without benefit of knowing that, well, some things didn't exactly balance very well, So,
First round ballot.
I could go with the first round ballot as long as we have some discussion afterwards.
a first round ballot, if first round ballot might produce a
Yes.
Right there,
a clear-cut majority appointment.
which is what I'd prefer to see, is we have it right there and
That would be very
have that
nice. If
discussion
it
right there.
doesn't, though,
Yeah.
then I think we need to have discussion on what and why, on the reason what we supported or didn't support, or we like this criteria but this can't, or whatever, to get that out. And then maybe have discussion about, council, should we cast another ballot?
Sure, I mean, yeah.
You know,
I mean, yeah.
And then.
Fair enough.
And then if things still are, let's call it unsettled,
Back on the
we
14th.
would have the choice to have further discussion, make a choice to adjourn, and then come back on the 14th, or have the choice of casting that third deadline ballot at Monday night. But I think it's prudent for us at least to get one done. And I think John made the point that there was one of these candidates that did garner 5 right from the get-go. So there may be a clear leader after the interview process, So procedurally, clear?
Yep.
Okay. We'll at least go one round with a lot of dialogue, so. Anything else? Not, I believe that completes what we convened the meeting for this evening, and so the meeting stands adjourned.